to take a moment and just make a few housekeeping announcements before I get started. I just hit the recording button. So this event will be recorded. So if you don't want to be on the recording, feel free to take a moment to just shut your camera off if it's not already and or rename yourself. We're also having the live transcript enabled down at the bottom. So if you do want to follow along with the live transcript, feel free to hit the CC button and that should start right away. But with that, I am going to get right to our main event and introduce our presenter for today. So this, as you know, is a deep dive into our career services here at Lewis and Clark Law School. We are a very hands-on team here, and career services is amazing, and they help you right from the get-go. And Dean Hermosilla is here today to tell you a little bit more about how they do that. Hello. But before we get started, to tell you a little bit about her. So Devra Hermosilla is the Assistant Dean of Career and Professional Development here at Lewis and Clark, and she oversees the Career Services Department. She's committed to the mission of working with students, employers, alumni, and donors to maximize the creation of job and networking opportunities for Lewis and Clark law students and graduates, hopefully all of you soon. She believes in fostering relationships with their students, alumni network, and employers to build trust and serve their individual needs. I think we're very, very lucky to have her here with us at Lewis and Clark, and so lucky to have her here today with us. So with that, I will turn things over to you, Dean Hermosilla.
Thanks, Mimi. Hi, everybody. As Mimi said, I'm Devra Hermosilla, and I am, excuse me, I have a little bit of a hoarse voice getting over a cold. I am going to talk today about our career services department and the services that we provide to our students and graduates, and particularly focusing on our first year, which is a big part of our program. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm sorry, it seems like I'm not able to yet.
No problem. I have you enabled now.
Okay. There we go. All right. So there we go. There we go. I don't know what I was doing wrong there. Apologize. I'm not super technology guru here. So this is their career services team, and I am the head of the department, and then we have two directors that work with us very carefully. Holly Puckett is the director of career services, and she oversees a lot of our recruiting events, and particularly on private employers. So what Holly does is she focuses on businesses who need attorneys and interns, and private law firms that need interns and attorneys. She runs the communication with the students. Sorry, I have a little coworker here today with me. Apologize. And we have, she oversees a lot of the, I would say, the logistics of our department, the newsletter, the just general recruitment, job posting, and as I'll talk about in a little bit, our software that we use to communicate with our students that we call Career Connect. And so Holly is also a career advisor, as am I. All of our directors and the assistant dean, we're all lawyers who have formerly practiced law. We all have Juris Doctors. And so we understand the industry very well. All of us have experience both in the private sector and in the public sector. So we can answer broad questions about what kinds of practices there are out there, and what kind of practice you might not even know about that we think you should explore a little bit. Our other director is Lexi Zursky. She's the director of public interest law. So she focuses her programming and her counseling on public service and public interest law. That means government jobs and also nonprofit public interest type of jobs. She also runs our judicial clerkship, and that's when you are a clerk to a judge during law school or after. And so she helps a lot with those types of programming, bringing in judges to meet you. We have a big event in the fall where judges from all over the region come and meet directly with our first year students, which is a really exciting event because you get to know the judges and they get to know you, and you can kind of start to see that judges are real people too, but also it leads to a lot of really great jobs during school and even after, and mentorship. So she runs programming like that. We have coffee chats, which are little mentor circles where an attorney from the community or a judge will come in and talk to students who are interested in learning more about their particular practice area, or maybe we have chosen them because they had children in law school, to kind of talk about life balance and getting through that. And so we have those coffee chats all year. Sometimes they are in person. More recently, it's just been very convenient for our employer mentors to appear online. So it makes it really easy and you can join in. We have panels that bring in different industry professionals to talk about certain aspects of careers, whether it's a policy type of a panel or employment law. And that has been very helpful for our students. One thing that is really great about Lewis and Clark, I think, is that our alumni network, but even more than that, our entire legal network. So even professionals who didn't attend Lewis and Clark, they respect our school, they like our students, and they find themselves to be a part of our community as well. And they're always willing to help students who reach out to them to get more information, maybe to do an information interview with them about their practice. They're always willing to help out, which is really, I think, a lovely thing about the Portland legal market. You also will see Holly is also the teacher of our foundations program. She took it over from me this last year and she did a beautiful job. So you will likely see her during your first year of law school here, teaching that class and get to know her very well. And I'll talk about that program in just a moment. First, though, I want to talk about one of the tools that we use to really help specialize your career planning individually on an individual basis. We have a program called Career Connect, and it's a software for law students, basically, in career services. It's a place where we can do the obvious things like post jobs and events, but it has a lot of other features that we like to use. You can set up your profile to show us what kinds of things that you're interested in. If you're interested in public interest law, if you're interested in learning more about litigation or immigration law, all different kinds of areas, you can select that. And then when we find opportunities that maybe there's a speaker coming to talk about immigration, for example, or there's a job posting for an immigration attorney, we can then send an alert out specially designed to you that says, because you've opted into this feature and said you're interested in immigration law, we have a really great opportunity to let you know about. And I think that really helps students, because you guys are so busy during your first year that you might not have time to go in and look at all of the events or the job postings. And it helps us work together to get those opportunities connected to you. You can use this program to make appointments with us online. So it's really easy. You can see when we have an availability and then choose a time to meet with us. One of the things that we do, our goal is to get to know every single one of our students before they graduate. And we start with that during the first year, but it continues. We have good relationships with our students. We know who they are. We know what they're looking for. We know what their struggles are. We know where they're trying to improve and what they're trying to learn about. And that is something that happens through meeting with our students, through using Career Connect to enter information so that we feel like we understand you. And I think that that's a really good feature of our career services department. And it has resulted overall in our students having really successful employment outcomes at the end, not only just during law school, but after graduation. So I think that's important. And this is one of the tools that we use to achieve that. Another tool that we use is our foundations programming. And this is a class that our first year students take, and it isn't only related to career services or career planning, but some of the sessions we are excited to teach and to show you how to convert the knowledge that you already have about career planning and resume writing and those kinds of tools, to change that and to transition that over into your new career of being an attorney or working in the legal field, because it's a little bit different, right? Every time you switch over to a new industry, you have different needs and expectations by the employers and the industry, and we help you navigate that from the very beginning. Even before you walk into the law school, we are trying to help you acclimate to this new industry. So during this class, as you can see, I've set out here, you have, we talk about your career timelines. What do you need to do your first year, second year, third year to be on point for getting a job after graduation? We talk about how to write a legal resume, which is taking your regular resume and converting it to the legal industry. A cover letter, your writing samples. That's something that not a lot of industries require, but in the law, we do. And you'll be working on your writing samples during your first year programming in your lawyering class. But we talk about what the employer expects for that and what kind of references to cultivate. We talk about networking, interviewing skills. We work with some of the student groups to provide networking interviewing workshops so that you can go and do a practice interview, which is pretty nice. Oh, I can hear somebody there. And we do pain point assessments in your job search, which means, you've applied to a lot of jobs and it hasn't worked out, or you've applied to a lot of jobs and received interviews, but it hasn't worked out. And so what does that mean? How can we fix that so that it'll move your ball forward? And then we talk about getting ready for summer when you are going to be working as a legal intern or extern for the summer, whether it's your first summer or beyond. So these are the skills that we work with. And the reason that we do this during the first year is because these skills set you up for success in finding jobs all throughout your first year, second year, third year, and as you graduate, instead of waiting until the very end to talk about some of these key principles. And then by then, maybe, you didn't get some of the internships that you might have received if you did have better materials or if you understood where to find those positions. And so we think it's important to start the first year right away. And we love to get to know you that way. This is a little overview of what our programming looks like for your first year. During the fall, we have you set up your Career Connect profile, and that's the software that I talked about a moment ago. You really focus your first semester on just getting acclimated to law school. So we try to leave you alone a little bit during the first part of that semester, but we do talk to you about helping you get your foundation application materials ready, your resume, cover letter, transcript, and those kinds of things, so that you can apply to some of the opportunities that are happening at the end of that first semester, like the 1L Diversity Fellowship and some on-campus interviews that happen with particularly some of the larger firms in the Portland area, but they have, most law firms have a program of, allowing some positions for 1Ls. And so we try to connect you with those opportunities. And then during winter break, we encourage people to apply to some of the jobs in our on-campus recruiting that happens in early spring. And I say spring, it's actually January, but it's spring semester. So every early spring, we have an annual Northwest Public Service Career Fair that all of the law schools in the region and all of the employers in the region who want to participate post jobs and do interviews of our students. And 1Ls are very actively involved in this particular recruitment. And these are employers that are public interest and public service. So in the nonprofit sector or government sector, in a range of types of positions, from environmental to civil rights and just general advocacy overall. The Department of everything, Department of Energy, the Department of Natural Resources, Transportation, all of those different government entities, they love to use our law students to come in and help them and to learn their business. So we have that fair. And then we also have a spring recruitment, which is an on-campus interview process more for the private sector. So law firms come in and interview at our spring recruitment, both in the spring and then also in the fall. So at the end of your summer, you'll see it says apply to fall recruitment. That happens during the summer after your first year. And I really want, we try to make sure that people know that that's upcoming so that they don't miss it, because those are some really great opportunities. And law jobs are odd in that the employers post things sometimes as far as a year in advance. So you might be applying for a job and interviewing for a job at the end of your first summer of law school for your second summer to start. So it's important to understand that cycle, and we try to help you navigate that as we go through. So that's the brief overview of career services and your first year with us and how involved we are. You might be sick of us by the end, but we think it's important still to get in there and meet you and try to help you understand what you need to do so that you can see the opportunities. You don't miss out on things and wake up the next day and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that that was something that I should be doing during my first year. And then we continue that relationship throughout the rest of law school. But I wanted to focus on your first year, since that is when we have the most direct and organized contact with our first year students. So I wanted to see if anybody has any questions.
Yes, everybody feel free to, if you're feeling brave, unmute yourself and let us know your questions, or you can type them into the chat window. We are looking at that as well. But Devra, Dean Hermosilla, I was wondering if for the benefit of this group, because I know that there are some faces here that are zooming in from out of state, a common question that we get, from students, especially if they're coming from outside of Oregon, is what resources are available, or how does career services help them in the event that they decide that they want to end up there after graduation?
Absolutely. We always have students going to different states after graduation, and even for internships while they're in school. So maybe they're attending law school here in Portland, but they want to go home for the summer to network there, but to be with their family. And so we try to help connect you to our alums that are spread throughout the country. And our alums are very welcoming and try to help as much as possible. But we also have a network of law schools that we work with to get reciprocity, to be able to view the job postings of some of the other schools. So let's say you're trying to go back to Arizona, for example, we can look at the job postings that Arizona's law schools post. So you have the benefit of being able to see those job postings in the local market. And that, I think, is a very big benefit. But we are successful in placing people all around the country. So we like to know that as soon as you do know that you want to do that, so that we can start setting up those processes for you as soon as you know. Some people, though, they don't know until after they've graduated, and then something happens, for example, with their spouse, and they find themselves needing to go somewhere else. But we get in action at that time and help you find something.
Thank you. I know that that's a common, as I said, a common question. We have a majority of students come from out of state, so it's something that's on everybody's mind. And of course, not everybody knows, right, where they want to end up practicing after graduation.
Yeah. The nice thing is, but the nice thing about the way that the bar exam is nowadays, most states participate in the UBE, which is, a uniform bar exam that applies to a lot of different states. And the majority of states. So if you do take the bar here in Oregon, and then you decide, or you get an opportunity up in Washington, or in another state that is UBE state, you can easily take your exam score and port it over to that other score. And it really does open up a lot of accessibility to moving in a way that was not available even 10 years ago. So I think that that is good. One exception to that right now is California, and we do have a lot of grads and a lot of students from California. But the good thing about that is if you're going back to California, then you're preparing for that, and that you're going to go back there. You can network while you're in school with some of our alums and some of the organizations that we work with to be able to go back. And the earlier that that, the easier it is, to do that networking ahead of time. But you can make this change at any time. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that's something that people think about. But for the UBE, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it really has become a majority, hasn't it, in just a really short time. Could you actually say a little bit more about that? I'm not sure how many students are aware of the uniform bar and how the process works. Yeah.
So it used to be that you would take a test in every single jurisdiction that you needed to practice law in. Back in the day, I practiced law in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon, and I had to either take a test in each of those jurisdictions, or I had to do what we call waive in. After a certain time of practice, then they kind of allow you to apply your skills. Now, when you graduate, if you take the Oregon bar, then you are able to take the score. There's a 3-part test for the bar exam. It includes some multiple choice, an essay, and a practice type of a, like a practice lawyer assignment, so to speak. And so like they'll say, write a memo on this issue, and they give you a little packet that you look at with some fake case law. And so it's kind of a fun little assignment. But those 3 aspects of the exam can then be, we call it porting. You take that exam and you substitute it in for when you apply, let's say up to Washington, for example. Instead of taking the test in Washington, you say, here's my exam results. And if they're high enough to qualify in that exam location, then they just plug in your scores that you've already taken. And you still have to pass the other aspects. Sometimes you have to take a seminar, 1 day or 1 hour class if they have something special that they want you to know about, or the character and fitness portion of the bar exam is different in every single state. You still have to go through those hoops, but you don't have to take the test again, and it makes it a really easy process to move.
Huge, really. It's
a big deal.
Yeah, and
it's a big deal.
combined with the fact that some students choose a small number, I think, Dean, that students choose to take the bar a little bit early too before graduation can really pair to open things up for you, for sure. And also, I saw Tess here has actually dropped a link to the National Conference of Bar Examiners website, and that's where you'll find the whole list of jurisdiction states, these days that do accept a UBE score, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you can see when you look on that it's most states. There are just a few exceptions. So
something else that I find is something that could be a little bit of a mystery too, especially, students who are returning to education, or, law school is a different animal, right? In terms of jobs and figuring that whole process out throughout law school. But we often get questions about how career services help with summer jobs, and many students I find don't always know it happens like right away, your 1L summer. So if you could talk a little bit about, I know the 1L timeline, how that feeds into helping them prepare for the summer, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. So we have, if you follow the programming of our foundations class, which it's a credit class, and so you'll have homework of actually doing your resume and things like that, which hopefully is a lot easier than some of the homework that you might be getting that first semester. But it is, you're ready to go. We get you prepared so that you're confident in your materials from the start, that that you're going to compare favorably. And then the 2 recruitments that we have well, there's actually three because the diversity recruitment, the Northwest Public Service Fair, and then our spring recruitment. But in addition to those bigger recruitment events, we post jobs every single day that employers reach out to us to post internships. They call, oh, I need an intern. We get those calls all the way up until June. People wake up and realize it's summer and say, oh my gosh, I need an intern for the summer. So there are opportunities that come along throughout the year. And that is for both your first summer and then throughout the rest of law school. A lot of students do internships and externships during law school, and being in Portland, that's a nice thing, because especially if it's not a remote internship, then a lot of our employers are right here in the same city that we are. So it makes it easy. You can go to class and then you can go to your internship. So, but a lot of students look at those types of job postings, but also we try to show you how to do networking so that you can go and find your own positions and feel confident moving forward in talking to people in the industry that you're interested in. And that results a lot for our students in summer opportunities or even things beyond. So we feel that we prepare our students well for finding positions that they want. Some people get really wrapped up in, oh my gosh, I have to have a job for the summer. But you don't necessarily have to have a job the first summer after law school. I mean, after your first year of law school. I operate under a theory that most legal employers like to see 2 experiences sometime during law school on your resume. That can be your first summer and your second summer, which is traditionally what it was. And in some locations, that's where you have to get your experience because you're not right downtown with everybody, with the employers. But a lot of times those experiences could be something, maybe you take an externship during one semester in your second semester, and then you do one of our clinics during your third year, during the fall or spring semester. That is 2 opportunities that show that you have some experience coming out of law school that employers want to look at. So we do prepare you so that when you're ready, you can get a job that fits with your timeline. And I think that that's something that it gets a little bit lost sometimes because we push so hard during that first year. People think, oh my gosh, I have to have a summer job. I like for people to have a summer opportunity because I think it's fun. I think that they like it and it does help them start to get some real experience, which is a little bit exciting. But if not, a lot of our first year students take summer classes that first year, a lot of them, so that they can take some of the classes that can help them become certified to practice under to practice in front of a court. We call it a certified law student. So that under supervision, like if you want to be a public defender intern, for example, law clerk, you can go and take some classes ahead of time so that you're ready when you're qualified. So there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of options once you get in. We try to prepare you and present the skills that you need to get the jobs, the connections, and the postings. So
you had said a lot about, different kinds of jobs during law school. And I know a lot of law students think about, different interests. Very few of them, might have just one or know exactly what they want to do. Although I think that's great if they do. But would you recommend switching around or trying different jobs? Or is it better to just stay in one law job for the most of law school if you can?
So I think that either option is a good one. You can't lose either way. If you are in a job, say you start with a law firm your first summer and they invite you to continue throughout the rest of your law school and you like it and you're learning things and it's doing what you need, you're getting paid, you're getting experience, and you like it, then there's no reason that you have to go and leave that law firm to go and find experience in a different area, even if it's just one thing that you're doing. And similarly, if you stay like with the Department of Justice and you're doing one kind of law throughout law school, you're gaining the skills that you need during law school, regardless of where you work. Some people, though, like to go in and try different things. And I believe that crossing things off of your list of what you want to do when you graduate is just as important as finding things that you love. So, maybe you say, I want to see what it's like to work in a government employer and a private law firm. And then you do an internship in one. It was great. You end that, and then you do one in a different kind of area. A lot of people like that because then they get a feel for what it's like. Either way, it's going to be absolutely fine. And I think that some people worry if they stay in one place too long that they're not getting the experience that they need. But if you look at it this way, while working in a lot of different places can help you gain a wider view for yourself of what is out there in the world, which can be very valuable. If you stay with one employer for a long time, maybe a year, or maybe during all of law school, you're probably getting deeper assignments and working there longer, and could be considered more like a beyond the 3 months that a normal internship would have. So there are pros in both scenarios.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, excellent advice too. The fact that I think any job when you're in law school will offer you valuable experience and exposure, right, to different kinds of areas. I know for one, I was not one of those super hyper focused on one specific area. So I found it helpful to do a lot of different things. I worked at like a state government position. I worked at a federal government position one summer, and then I, did a few things here and there, like for private firms, and I tried a few different contexts out. And exactly what you were saying, it was just as valuable to cross things off that list, to narrow down what you think your postgraduate life might be like, as it was to kind of affirm things that I thought I might be interested in. So yeah, it's an interesting idea for sure.
And Mimi, that reminds me too, like when I was in law school, I did almost exclusively criminal defense stuff until the very last summer, or I graduated in January. So I had one semester left, and I got a job in a private law firm. But I was worried before that all of my experience working in one area, even though it was with some different employers, was going to pigeonhole me as only being able to do that kind of law. And it didn't at all. My private law firm employer liked the fact that I had legal experience, that I had done writing, and mostly that I was able to be in court. And they liked that. I took that skill of being able to argue in court in a defense, criminal law context in a public defender office, into the private sector to argue motions. And they liked that I was able to use that skill. So I think it's important during law school to focus on skill development more than even the topical development when you're looking for an opportunity. All legal experiences can be good experiences for that purpose.
Yeah, I can't echo that enough. That's really excellent point. Actually, speaking of, your own law school experience, I know that you were a part-timer when you were in law school. And I know that there are some faces in this crowd too that are, intending to start as a part-time in law school. So if you could talk a little bit about how career services helps those folks and maybe some of the unique challenges that they face, trying to get experience and participating.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was a part-time evening student when I was in law school. And I also had a baby during my first semester during finals, during a final exam on my first semester of law school. So if you have any questions about that and how to balance, I'm happy to talk about it. But one of the things that did for me is I understand what it's like to have a balance, sometimes a difficulty balancing law school and a career and family. And we try to be aware of that in our programming. We have events. If they're during the day, we try to record them so that people can watch them. If they couldn't attend, we try to have things in the evening as well. Our foundations class also is for the evening students, and we have a lot of the same programming, but we try to tailor it a little bit for the evening students. Maybe the majority of the evening students are in already professional jobs or jobs that they might even be staying in. So a lot of the material seems, not as relevant. So we try to change the presentation a little bit to be more on point. We have office hours in the evening, at least one day a week. Right now, Holly Puckett is the person that's designated to meet with students in the evening, and she's open physically. You can call her office or make a meeting with her. And when we're all back on campus and everything is, back to normal, whatever that normal is going to be, you'll walk by and you'll see that our lights, at least one of our lights, are on. And I think that's, please know that is for you, and come in and say hi and make an appointment when it fits your schedule. So.
Yeah, so important. I know there's also some unique challenges I think part-timers in particular face with, like externships or clinics. Yeah, I'm not sure there is, something to say in that regard, but if you're going to be specific.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we do is we try to work, if it's possible in the place that you're working, we try to help you set up an externship or an internship or shadow opportunity within the legal department where you're actually currently working. Sometimes that's something that employers are very open to for a couple of reasons. One, it might be a good fit for you since you know their company, to go and work there after graduation. But even if not, they want to help. But if that's not possible, sometimes people do save up, so to speak, their externship experience and take a leave of absence for a summer and work somewhere else. We've had a lot of students do that, and it's an educational leave of absence. But if you can't do that, there are other ways to get legal experience while you're in law school through pro bono experience, which is basically volunteering your legal services at different organizations. Lexi, our director of public interest law, can help set you up with different organizations that do that kind of work. And a lot of that work is work that you can do in your own time. And you can, therefore, you're not stuck with having to go at Tuesday when you're not available. And that's something. Also, doing research for professors is a way to get some experience. And we have a lot of experiential oriented classes at Lewis and Clark that are also offered to the evening students. One thing in that is I wouldn't get as hung up on what the topic of the class is. So if it's a seminar, say you want to do family law and the seminar is on, I don't know, environmental seminar, something not family law, let's say. But it's a trial, a mock trial type of a situation. Do it anyway. Don't worry about the topic. Think about the experiential element of that class, contracts writing, different seminars on, what are they called? Practicums, those kinds of opportunities. Definitely take advantage of those, especially if you are not able to get out and do internships and externships during law school.
Yeah, they're a great way to expose your work to members, actual working members of the legal community, like in the area too. That's a great point. And while earning credit, something I know that everybody always wonders about, Devra, is postgraduate wise, what types of jobs do you see our students primarily going into, or are there trends or patterns that you can maybe speak to?
Sure. So we just finished our cycle for this year, and it's not finalized yet, but it looks like we achieved about a 94% employment rating for all of our students, and almost all of those jobs are in the legal sector. So I'm really proud of our grads for that in the class of 2021. But if you look at that class, it is a wide spectrum. But I noticed this year that we had quite a number of people going into business, working as not in-house counsel specifically, but a lot of JD Advantage jobs in compliance and those types of things. Sustainability is a hot topic right now, especially in the environmental sector. So that was kind of exciting to see. We had a lot of students start in one job and then switch over to something relatively quickly this year, into something that was more on point for their interests, which I liked to see that they took the advice of taking a job that was giving them some good experience, say in litigation, and then they were able to turn that experience along with their, say, environmental certificate that they got from Lewis and Clark, and turn that into an environmental job. And I think that that's really exciting. We have a lot of staff attorney positions in nonprofit environmental organizations, but also civil rights organizations. That's definitely a place that a lot of our students go. We have a lot of people serving as prosecutors and also as defenders throughout the state of Oregon and also beyond in Washington. There's a new program, Defender Rising, and it's a program trying to recruit people into public defense up in the Washington region. And they've come to our school because of our criminal clinic or criminal justice clinic, and our students are awesome. And so they know that they're going to get a good deal. So they come to us. But also we have a broad range of law firms. We have always a few people who want to try their hand at their own solo practice, but most people go into firms in the 1 to 10 or 2 to 10 attorney range, because there are a lot of firms like that. But this year we've seen people all the way a lot in the 26 to 50 range, moving more in that direction, and then all the way up into huge 500 plus attorney firms. So it depends on what you're interested in. And I think we have something for everybody. People are able to really find what they're looking for. And we had a lot of flexibility this year, but we're more willing to explore outside of the Portland area. But we had positions that fit every need. We even had some honors attorneys this year. We had judicial clerkships, and we had 2 JAG attorneys this year, which is exciting.
So exciting. I'm very excited for this graduating class and so proud of our grads. Oh,
yeah.
So we have a question from the audience. Yeah. How does the Foundations of Professional Practice course fit in with other coursework?
It's designed to, it's one credit over the course of the whole school year. So you meet not every week. It's like every other week you meet for 1 hour. And our portions of it tend to not be very homework heavy. It's more like a forced audience to learn about what we think that you need to know to be successful in your job search. And so we do have some homework from our end, but it's like the stuff that you should be doing anyway: getting your resume ready, drafting a cover letter, practicing some interview answers, right? We'll give you a few questions and want you to think about it to kind of get your mind flowing in that way. The other aspects of Foundations are doing like practice bar exams, portions of the bar exam, so you can get exposed to that early. I don't know what kind of homework is involved in that, but I think overall it's not particularly onerous. We try to keep in mind that this is in addition to a really, first year is always heavy because it's a different way of thinking about, your homework and reading and thinking to become an attorney. So we try to keep that in mind, but the things from our end are things that you're probably going to be doing anyway, as far as homework goes.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Kyle.
Yes, Kyle.
Hi. I have a question about networking and mentorship and finding attorney mentors, because I hear the word network a lot, and that can mean so many different things, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it can just mean like going to office hours, or sometimes people think of it as like cocktail parties where you're just like talking with other lawyers. But one of my friends that just graduated from law school said that one of the best ways that she networked was going to like adjunct professor office hours that are practitioners, and hearing what their experience is like as practitioners in different areas of different practice areas. So I guess my question is, like, what does Lewis and Clark or the Career Offices Center do to encourage kind of like finding an attorney mentor or pairing you up with an attorney mentor? Or
that's a really good question, and that's a really good answer too about meeting with adjunct professors. They have put themselves out to you to be involved in teaching law students. And so they love it. They love to talk about themselves. We all do. I mean, you can't be an attorney without loving to talk about yourself. But I think that in expanding on that is if somebody comes to speak, say I was talking about those coffee chats, you didn't have an opportunity to go to that coffee chat, but they presented themselves as somebody who's open to talking to law students and who's making that effort. So you could reach out to them, and the names are on the website, but if you missed that, you can contact us and say, I'm so sorry, your coffee chat was during a class or whatever, but I would really love to hear more about it. Can we do virtual coffee or real coffee? And they usually are thrilled to do that and to talk to you about it. So that's kind of taking that same idea of really meeting with the different people who've already opened themselves up to law students. One of the things that we do for all of the first year students, like immediately when you come in, is we pair you with an attorney mentor. So you will have an attorney mentor the day you walk in, or I don't know, like a week later when you walk into the law school. One thing I would encourage you to think about is don't concentrate so much on what this attorney is practicing right now, right? Maybe they're a tax attorney and you're thinking there is no way ever that I'm going to be a tax attorney, because that's not the point of having an attorney mentor. The attorney mentor is there to ask questions about practicing law generally, about do you know someone, tax attorney mentor, do you know somebody who does environmental law? Well, yes, of course they do. Why? Because legal community here is pretty small. It's big, but it feels more intimate. And as I always say, it's like 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, if you've ever played that game, and they know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who you should talk to. So don't give up on your attorney mentor just because they're not the one that you would have selected for yourself, because it's what'll happen is you can use them and their mentorship to find your attorney mentor using the other resources. And our Career Connect software also has a directory of alumni, so you can go in, and it's kind of new still, but the people who have entered their information there are people who are interested in connecting with other alums and students. And so you can also use our alumni network. If you come into our office and say, I would like to talk to somebody who does business law, well, then we can connect you with an alum, maybe a recent grad who is working in that field. So that's a good question, and it's something that we really encourage, is that networking. And it, like you said, it doesn't have to be the dreaded, bad word, networking. And I have been known to go to those functions and hide in the bathroom because I just wasn't into the whole networking, right? I look at networking, some people are good at that, and that's great. For me, I'm a one-on-one kind of person. I like to develop relationships one-on-one. So when I go into a big event, which we do encourage you to attend, meet one other person, right? And then you've done your job. Meet one person, you might then have the courage to go and meet someone else. And always think of every time that you meet in a networking situation, you're not asking them for a job. You're not asking them for anything except information about their career. And if you look at it like that, networking becomes a lot more manageable during law school. So,
yeah, that's really reassuring to hear. I mean, it sounds like there's just so many different opportunities and different forms of networking that even if, like you kind of mentioned, you don't have to be the extrovert that's going out and speaking to a room full of people.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's really reassuring.
But for people who are like that, we have those opportunities as well.
Something else, I don't know if Devra, you found this too, but I struggled in the beginning too, networking, and I found it was good to drag a buddy along, from law school. And, that helped me kind of, as you were saying before, just kind of get out there and at least have somebody with me. And once we would be there and you kind of do your own thing and focus on maybe just meeting one person as opposed to everybody in the room, because that can feel really overwhelming. But
right.
Yeah, that could be helpful too, I think.
Yeah, but it is important to network because most people do find their jobs through their networking efforts, and more in the legal community. And it doesn't, I hate to tell you guys this, but it doesn't end just when you graduate from law school, right? Networking is a way of life for attorneys, because that's how you get your clients. That's how you get donations if you're working in a public interest sector. That's how you manage your own practice as you move forward. But it doesn't have to be the kind of networking that you're not comfortable doing. It can be the networking of, I like to meet people one-on-one. I like to learn about what they're doing one-on-one. And I do that. And that's how I create jobs for people. I meet with one attorney at a time. What do you do? And then I learn about their firm and what kinds of needs that they have. And I don't have to go and meet everybody in the room to do that effectively. And so that is something that is important. So we do focus a lot on networking in our career services programming, because we think it's really important.
Yeah, so important. That's really good advice. And, Kyle, also to piggyback a little bit on Dean Hermosilla's comments, the other mentors that we provide you too, like ask questions. You have a peer mentor, you also have a faculty mentor, and sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, especially at the start of law school, I think, to just go right up to a lawyer and start chatting, right? If you've never done that before. So, asking questions of everybody in your, mini network here at the law school can be helpful too. They could just introduce you. And again, it's a little bit less intimidating to have somebody, bring you in and make an introduction, when it's expected. Something that you might be able to utilize as well, as a one-off. So,
yeah.
I do think we have another question in the chat window.
Okay.
So comes from Dave. So he's curious to hear, does the career services program extend to assistance with finding international opportunities?
It does. We have less international postings, like, international employers don't necessarily contact our office to post a job on the network, but we have a lot of alums working in the international sector and in different parts of the world. So if it takes a little bit more legwork on both of our parts, I think, but we work with the network that we have in the area of your interest. And I highly recommend that if you are interested in international law, that you get to know our international professors of law, and if you can, if they have a clinic or a research program or any kind of thing, to really get to know them, because they have really great connections, and we try to tap into that as well. There are some sectors that are easier to get into internationally, but we have a big LLM program at our school, and a lot of our LLM students are international. So they come from all different countries to learn, about environmental law or animal law, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing that they know about back in their own countries where they are attorneys and judges and different things. So we try to work with you that way. The other thing that we do is try to think of, okay, if eventually you want to work in an international position, what are some of the domestic positions that you can do now when you first graduate that can put you in that path? And that's where most of our students really start, is in that path. And then that puts them in the path for an international position. So
thank you. I hope that answers your question, Dave. And I see here too in the chat window, Tess has posted some really useful links, especially if you're interested in sort of thinking about that after graduation. We have an international law careers database. Something else too that maybe it's not directly career services related, but I'll offer is that we have a couple of ways you can go abroad, internationally. Externing is one of them, actually, and you can do that during your summers, and that can often, speaking of networking, help you, make some connections overseas that could maybe come in handy later. So something to think about during that 1L summer, or even beyond. So
that's that. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Good idea.
Okay, it looks like we have just a few minutes left, so probably time for maybe another question. If anybody wants to throw one in the chat or unmute yourself, you're welcome to. But I also, by the way, shared a link to the awesome career services blog a little bit further up in the chat window. You can check it out. But I know some of these blog posts they look like they've been posted a while ago, but the topics are still completely relevant and salient. I encourage everyone to check them out. Great articles. I've actually referenced a couple of them, over the past year, just to stay up to date on all the things that career services are doing. But yeah, so that's another good resource for you all to look at. Maybe Dean Hermosilla, the one thing that we could maybe close on, is could you talk a little bit about maybe what the current job market looks like for grads? Because I think there's a little bit of that, coming out of sort of turning the COVID corner and understanding the impact of that, and how that's looked for our graduates.
We have had a really strong job market this year, and it's still strong right now. I am always cautiously optimistic about the job market in general, but it feels solid. The thing is that even with the pandemic, the work didn't go away. Like, it was still a need out there. It was just that we couldn't physically be in the same places that we used to be. And then with the Great Resignation that happened, that affected the legal industry as well. So what we're seeing for our recent grads is that some of the people in the not recent level, but like maybe they're 2, 3, 4-year attorneys, they have moved on to a different place. And that is what that has done, is trickled down to openings for our graduates to come up and into those same, law firms that we're seeking. And that has been really helpful to our grads, and not just the ones that just graduated, but the people who maybe graduated during the height of the pandemic in 2020. That was a little bit of a difficult year. We still had, almost 90% employment, and all of those people that wanted one ended up getting a job. But a lot of the people, maybe they went into a job that wasn't the one that they wanted. They have now been able to, within a relatively short amount of time, move into something that's a little closer to what they're hoping that they would be able to do because of the current market. So I think that's something to always kind of keep in mind and think about, and they place themselves well to gain some experience that will help them get those jobs. And we're seeing that happen now. But for internships, a lot of, we had a little bit of a shrinkage because people didn't know how to manage interns remotely. That was a little bit of a difficulty. And so we're a little bit better at that, I think, this year, but something to kind of keep in mind. That's why I say any legal experience is a good one when you're in law school, because if you have any legal experience, whether it's remote, whether it's in person, whether it's doing something that you love, or that you're just trying to get some good writing samples out of, whatever it is, that I recommend for the internships this year, and probably through next year to grab those when they come along. We still do have a lot of them, but they tend to go, like this year for the Northwest Career Fair, we had a lot of our first years get positions, but not quite as many as we traditionally have. So what we found was that a lot of those positions went to our 2Ls. So if you keep that in mind and say, okay, well, that didn't happen for me this year, but next year I'll be a 2L. So ultimately the opportunity will come your way. So
it's a great piece of positive advice to end on. So thank you so much for your time. I hope the audience joins me in thanking Dean Hermosilla for her time. This has been such a helpful presentation, I hope, for everyone in the audience. The recording will be available later on the website on the Inside LNC. If anyone wants to check it out later or share it around, you're more than welcome to. Quick reminder too, we have some great events coming up Monday, March 28th. We have an Affinity Student Organizations event for all of you to hear a little bit from some other voices in our community. And then hopefully it's on your calendar, but if not, please do join us for our April 9th Saturday Law School Preview Day. Really excited to welcome everybody back to campus in a big way. So hopefully you'll be able to attend. With that, we will say goodbye for now and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
everybody, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.